Welcome to the Hard-Fought Faith. Here, you'll hear real testimonies and conversations about people who've walked the hard-fought faith, who've sat in the fire and wrestled with God. We're grateful you're sitting with us. Pastor Glen, thank you so much for sharing your testimony on the hard-fought faith. I remember when I came to Parkway for the first time, one of the first things I remember, and I told my mom about this, is that when I met you, you emanate Jesus. It oozes out of you, your love for him, and it has been such an encouragement to me. And so your testimony, and I've only heard bits and pieces of it, it's one I'm personally excited for because I know that it's something that's going to be encouraging to me. And so I wanted to just thank you so much for being willing to share your testimony.
Well, thank you very much, sister. Happy to be here with you.
And I wondered, so your story includes a significant call to the missions field, and I definitely want to talk about that. But I wondered if you would first tell me about that moment when you surrendered to the Lord, when you found the Lord, and what that looked like for you.
Yeah, so blessed to be born in this country and to have Christian parents that taught me about Jesus early on, and they were the model that my brother and I followed. And my mom actually led me to the Lord in our living room area when I was 7 years old, and then from there, I was kind of still mischievous. The Lord had to keep working on me, but that's certainly the strong start. And then I was called, I felt like I had a specific calling to go into all the world when I was mid-teens, 15 or 16, something like that, about ready to wrap up with high school. And so that's what was my introduction or exposure to a call into ministry, and so it just grew from there.
And when you kind of got that initial call, and you said, like, God is calling me to go into all the world, did it hit you at that moment that it was going to involve actually going out into all the world? Like, did he give you any kind of guidance at that point on where he would be sending you?
No, he didn't, and it's really interesting. It wasn't something that was just worked out the first time. It was something that I had to grow into and seek the Lord. And I think we just our family had a contracting business, and our father started the business when my brother and I were just little young fellas. And so when there was a period of time there where I joined the family business and my brother and I were working there together, we had this exposure to missions work. And so that's how the intensity of serving on the mission field was originally introduced to us.
And when you started your work in the missions field, did it start with smaller trips, or did you kind of jump in and go for longer trips?
Yeah, usually go for a couple weeks or something. But we were builders here in town. We had an office in Roanoke and Richmond, and so it was a natural thing for us to be involved in that type of ministry. But it's very interesting because the peak of my, you know how a car, when the RPMs go up too much and it's redlining? Redlining was what my life was on the mission field. And so that's where my brother and I, he continued building overseas, and I dove into this Jesus film ministry. And so that was what really just exploded my life. seeing people that haven't even heard the name of Jesus before, and then seeing it, and they don't know what's on the screen. They don't know that's a picture. They just think it's happening in real time. They're introduced to Jesus right there. And so just seeing people, all in jungles, in refugee camps in Africa, in disaster-stricken areas like Bangladesh. And so it just, I continued with the Jesus Film Ministry, and my brother continued with the building, and we kind of complemented each other.
And with the Jesus Film, for somebody who's not familiar with, what was the Jesus Film?
Yeah, great question. The Jesus Film is a film that is from the book of Luke. Every word in the film is taken from the book of Luke. And it is very authentic, one of the most authentic films of this type. And the guy that owns the Kansas City Chiefs, Lamar Hunt, he funded this effort through Campus Crusade for Christ. And so I had the opportunity one day it just exploded my life. I just couldn't, every morning I couldn't wait to get up and hit the ground to hopefully make a little bit of money to, allow someone else to see Jesus. It just was my life song. And so my brother and I, he would go and build in places. Well, then I might come behind and show the film, or I might go and he would follow me. And so we just complemented each other really well. And that was very, very exciting times. Just so many stories and so many experiences that, people, we just have it so good here in America.
Yeah, we do. Did you ever live on the missions field, or was it a lot of going out to the different places that the Lord wanted that film to be played?
Yeah, so 30 years was a volunteer missionary. Huh. And so we funded our work through our business, so we would have to, make a living and come up with the funds to, I remember like one time we were at the peak of work in Ethiopia, and things were just really rolling, and we were winning so many people to the Lord through the film that the Jesus Film people wanted us to slow down because they couldn't train enough leaders, and that wasn't going to happen. I wasn't about to slow down. So we needed to provide a training center to bring people, from all over the Horn of Africa to be trained as pastors. And so I remember my brother and I, we had a business meeting right in front of my dad, who was in a bed in a hospital at Roanoke Memorial. And we were faced with this decision: do we slow down our ministry, or do we fund these training centers so that more people could be discipled? And so I don't think that like the financial gurus would tell you to do this, but we borrowed a significant sum of money in order to build this training center, and we made the call, and we were planning to mobilize in that area, and before we got to the mission field, there was a project that we had bid on here in the States, and our bid was not selected. And before we left for the mission field, a contractor had decided to take their business in a different direction, and it opened up the door for us to build this project. So it was something that we thought it was was behind us, it provided the funding.
Wow.
We were able to pay back the money we had borrowed before we even left the States. Praise God. And I've just seen that so many times through the years. And I just seen, people, people showing the film would oftentimes, they wouldn't know the name of Jesus, and so they would be introduced to him, and then to see the transformation in lives. We were just talking before we started this video. I remember walking down the dirt road in Ethiopia with the people singing, "I have decided to follow Jesus." And we baptized, 280 some people that day. And it took us like 3 or 4 hours, and we were walking out of the water. There was cows on one side and people taking baths on the other. And we walked out, and the missionary said, "Man, I sure am glad that's over." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "A crocodile just ate a guy here the day before." So those type of experiences were just, you don't do missions work in third world countries without having all kinds of stories. And I got this email one day that this group of people said, "We're praying for you that God's going to put on your heart the mercy people in southern Ethiopia, the clay plates and all that stuff." Well, so I didn't know who they were or anything. So when I took lunch that day, I went to the county library, and I walked back trying to find a picture of these mercy people that they were talking about. And I can remember it was page 27 of this National Geographic, and I opened up the pages, and there were the mercy with their clay plates and ears dangling down and body markings. And I remember sitting down on the bench in the library and just praying and saying, "This is going to be so cool when these people come to know Jesus." And so, I thought I could do it that night. I thought we could just get, let's go. Well, sometimes things don't work like we want them to. And it took 6 years of praying and making an effort to reach the mercy people. We would have to cancel trips because of flooding. We'd have to cancel trips because the mercy were at war with another tribe down there. You couldn't get close, and just on and on. And for 6 years, we thought it was just, we began to wonder, is this? And even the missionaries were thinking, well, how in the world are they going to be able to understand what's the screen, on the screen? And so the challenges just kept building and building. And then one day I remember I was smuggling equipment through the Addis Ababa, Ethiopia airport. And if you want to feel alive, smuggling Jesus film equipment is the way to go. And I came out of that. I actually went up to the customs and fully expected the guy to open up my 2 trunks of equipment. And I got up there, and it was like he just couldn't see me. Wow. And so I walked right through with these storm-cased trunks of Jesus film equipment. And I was like hyperventilating. I was so excited. I couldn't wait to tell a missionary what had happened. And he kept saying, "Glen, Glen, Glen." And finally I slowed down, and he said, "I think we have a way to get into the mercy." Wow. And that's where it started. We made the trip, and it was unbelievable just getting there. But I remember this one of the guys. He said, "I'll be your bodyguard." Oh. And so he stood by me with an AK-47. In his words, in case the lion, the hyena, or the hammer, which was the mercy's enemy, tribe. And so I got to see my bodyguard give his life to Jesus. We that first night, they were an unreached people group, and when we left, we had won 19 of them, and it goes on and on. From there, it just opened up so many doors. And I think the last time I spoke here at Parkway, it was like there's 27,000 Mercy, and 12,000 of them now know Jesus. And so those kind of just experiences that you just see, like, it was obvious that evil, it's almost like you wouldn't even say that they were an unreached people group, because evil had already reached them before we got there. Wow. And so, man, we couldn't, everything we tried, the equipment wouldn't work. The first generator wouldn't send power, and we just had shown the film the night before, and then, well, we got a spare set, it's going to be okay, and it wouldn't work. And it was just like an electricity, and just the missionary said, Glenn, man, if we don't do something quick here, we're not going to be safe. This is turning bad. And so it was just like the creator of the world suddenly said, these people belong to me. Man. And he moved on that situation. And the film had been translated with a introduction from Speaking of Abraham, and it was going to be used for Muslim people. But what was so cool is that the Garden of Eden, the Mercy people could relate to that, because they saw the ground being lush and green and just everything fresh, and they talked about how just their areas were just dry and barren, and so, like, the film's running for 20 minutes, and the chief of the Mercy comes up and wants to stop it. And I'm just thinking, oh man, you mean we've come all this way, and now, and so he said, I see this ground that's green and lush. He said, we don't have that. I want to know this Jesus. Wow. So what it took 6 years, took about 20 minutes that night. Wow. For 19 Mercy guys to come to the Lord, raising their AK-47. And I was so, when the guy said, hey, come up here to the light, and if you want to accept Jesus, and my bodyguard looked at me. He didn't want to leave me, but he wanted to go. He wanted to meet Jesus. Yeah. And so finally he hits me on the shoulder, and I get it, and I walk with him and see him give his life to Jesus, and on and on and on. You talk about podcasts. I could just, I never cease to be amazed at what our God does. And so I just got to see that, through displaced camps, refugee camps, people that are so, they're so different from what life is like for us. And so I feel very grateful that I was able to be involved, and that certainly, looking back on my life at that point, so much of it made sense. Yeah. Because it fit together. And sometimes God fits the pieces together right away. Sometimes he, it takes decades in this case. And we just, he's awesome.
He's good.
So I'm very, very thankful that I was able to have that involvement.
When you were on the missions field, so you said you've been in crocodile-infested waters, you have met unreached people groups who had those, situations where you had a bodyguard, that somebody and the Mercy people stepped up to that. Were there any other times where, like, what did hardship look like in that world for you? Like, were there, you mentioned like it took 6 years to get to the Mercy people, but were there places you had to go travel great lengths to get to? And what did those kind of situations look like? Like, did any of that cause you to wrestle at any point with the call God had placed on your life, or, that side of the missions work that you were doing?
Yeah. I don't think it ever, I think I just kept, standing amazed at what he was doing. And it just, I would keep, I would get I didn't know how to operate a computer, but I had a secretary, and she would print out the reports from places all over the world where we had started the Jesus film. Yeah. And so I kept score until 2,132,260 people came to Jesus. And that's when he told me, stop counting. I want you to do something else now. And so that's the number stays right there. And so from there, we just it was like the Lord said, okay, now there's something else. And so we went and dove into compassionate ministry, compassionate relief in South Asia, Bangladesh and Nepal and Sri Lanka. And so, just a lot of times we try to make a decision based on the information that's in front of us when God has already given us a passion for what he wants to accomplish. And so that was the case. By the time we got to Bangladesh and started working in these disaster relief areas, we were in love with the people before we got there, and we were brokenhearted for what they were going through. And then, the all-time great story is the one where we were trying to get into a disaster area, and they had to land with a floater plane to let us out. And you couldn't tell where the river stopped, and it was just all muddy water. And so we got there and ran under a hut, and there were two men of a different religious persuasion that would be opposed to Christians, and they were diagramming the vein in the leg that we cut when we have our war against the American Christians. And so I was there. I was right there under the hut with them, and we just, the Lord just worked it out. He was faithful. I've been arrested for smuggling things, and God's always been faithful. He's we're only limited by our faith that we, And so that really, the whole, the Bangladesh trip is where they think that, I have Parkinson's disease. And so the people up at UVA kind of put it together, and from toxic water, that's kind of what happened. And so that just, that just kind of opened up a new door, and he did have something else. And so then suddenly it was, okay, I don't want you to go to the other side of the world anymore. I want you to sit in front of people and love on them with my love. And so suddenly I realized, well, man, he's got in mind me counseling people. I don't even have a high school piece of paper. How am I going to counsel somebody? And so I just thought, well, if this is the plan, I'm going to have to sharpen myself. And so when I was 50 years old, I had to take 2 classes before I could get a high school there was diploma, and so then I got a high school diploma, and I got a psychology degree to learn how to work with people, and then went on and got 2 masters, and just really never did it for the piece of paper, but I did it to just be as sharp as I could be for Him. And I really just, my passion became marriages, saving marriages, healing, and counseling. And so that just was what happened here at Parkway. I had taken this opportunity to be the executive pastor here, and so those days led to trying to be as sharp as I could, so that God could save a marriage, and He's been just as faithful. And my disease, it's not a lot of fun. But I'm so blessed, and when I'm weak, He is strong. And when I, can't hardly get up in the mornings or get dressed, or, my wife and daughter, they hear me say all the time, I like being me, because I see the Lord at work. And, when you can't sleep at night, and you can't, and you realize it's just an opportunity for you to talk to the Lord more. And, it's just, He blesses, and He's faithful. And I remember when they told us what the disease was and what they could do about it. And I remember thinking, okay, doesn't sound like much fun, but I remember praying, Lord, just find us useful. Allow us to be involved still, regardless of what diseases come or what challenges we face. I just want to be useful. And He's been faithful to that. So how could I ever complain? Or I got to be the most blessed man. And I want to love on people with His love. And I want to, we had our life group last night, and the guy brought in this big jug of honey. He knows I love honey, and so I couldn't wait to go home and put that honey on the peanut butter sandwich. I love it. And then you squeeze it, and it, like the honey oozes out. Well, that's the best. I want my life to ooze Jesus. Yes. I just want others to see Him in some way. And I'm just blessed beyond words.
And when I listen to you talk, the thing you keep doing is you've seen the Lord in things that in our humanness we might frame as difficulty, like financial, or oppression in the missions field, or your health. In our humanness we might look at those as challenges, but you keep rerouting them and reframing them as the way that the Lord is working, and you go back to blessing, and that mentality in the struggle. If you're in the middle of the hardship and you're kind of focusing on the hardship, it's hard to see anything but the way that I keep hearing you talk is, instead of looking at the hard thing, you're looking at the way that the Lord is moving in the hard thing.
Yes. And
one kind of the heartbeat questions of the hard fought faith is about, how maybe advice you would give, what would you advise somebody who's having trouble not looking at the hardship? Their eyes are focused on, because they're in that storm and the enemy's got the lightning going, and they're kind of glancing around. What would be your advice, or where would you point them to go so that they can move forward through disappointment or through hardship or through those moments when the Lord feels kind of silent to them?
Yeah, I think that those last words there, the feeling silent, and you feel like the Lord's, you feel like there's this great chasm all of a sudden that you're, yeah, I think I've never known the Lord to move. He's right there. It's just, it's me to honor Him and live for Him. And so, he's my best friend, and if that's the case, then I obviously want to spend as much time with him as I can. And so that's what created an opportunity for prayer that I just, I'm so thankful for that. And so I think I would just encourage those who are feeling like they're further away. I would just encourage them to spend, when we go and see our friend, we don't just sit down at the table and just immediately ask for things but we do that with Jesus, right? We start praying and we're all automatic. We're asking things of Him, and so I just like to encourage people to enter into your time or communication with Him, by like the opportunity, like honoring the Lord's names and praising those names and how useful and beneficial that can be. I think the Lord He's cool with us asking. I think He would expect us to, put Him first.
Yeah.
And everything else falls into its proper place.
And one thing that's really encouraged me is not just when I talk with you, but when I talk with other people, they say, if you've asked Pastor Glen something, if you ask him to pray about something, he's really going to pray about it. How has prayer shaped your faith? Or because sometimes I feel like when we're in a hard moment, it's really hard to find the words. But what has prayer done for you?
Man, it's really exploded my life. During the early days with the Parkinson's, I didn't have any extended periods of sleep, and just maybe 20 minutes at a time, and it just couldn't imagine that it was going to be like that. But I just tried to embrace those times as an opportunity to talk to my best friend and to seek Him. And I spend approximately 3 hours a day in prayer. What you said about telling people, you make that commitment, you need it. Well, so I do, and I try to fulfill that commitment. And man, just what He's done for us. How could we ever complain? He's been so good, and He just paid the ultimate price. And so oftentimes the people that are challenged, sister, I think in some ways they just need to be reminded that we do need to have an eternal focus. It's appropriate for us to He made us the way we are, and there are going to be challenges, but one day all these people that we're talking about that have come to the Lord, well, they're going to be there worshiping Jesus with us. And we need to make sure that we're have the winner's wreath, or we need to honor him and what he's done for us, and take as many people to heaven as we can, and not spend time on worrying about things that you can't control, but spend time trying to be useful to him.
That's good. That's so good. Pastor Glenn, before I start, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think we did pretty good, sister.
Then I would love, because I feel closer to heaven just sitting here talking with you, and I'm so grateful. But I wondered if I could ask you, would you pray for that person who's listening here now, who needs, to hear from the Lord, or who needs to shift that focus from the situation to the work, and who maybe doesn't have a relationship yet with the Lord, but needs to find he's their best friend too. So if it's okay with you, because I love hearing you talk about prayer, I love hearing you talk about the Lord, would you close us out with a prayer?
Certainly, absolutely. Our Father, this has been an exciting time. It's always great when we get to just refresh and realize how awesome you are and all that you've done. And make no mistake, our heart's desire is that we can stay in the game. And we don't want to be on the sidelines. We want to be in the game, and we want to be useful to you and pleasing. And I just pray right now for this podcast audio. I pray that this would be something that you could receive and bless in a way that it will strengthen people. It will remind them of what our priorities are and what comes first. And I just pray that this effort would be something that would be pleasing to you, and it would increase your kingdom. And lay your hand upon Tessa and her family, and bless her as she continues with this passion. And I want to thank you for the passions that you give us. And so I just want us to be mindful that a lot of times our decision is made based on the passion that you give us, Lord. And so I pray that there would be clarity, there would be times where there would be understanding, and those that hear this but they have an obstacle, I pray that they would spend more time in anticipation of being with Jesus and less time about what we can't control, or the challenges that we can face. And Lord, forgive us for, how can we complain? We just praise you, and we love you with all our heart. And I pray that this effort would be something that would strengthen our faith, and that it would make contact with people that that you want to call into full-time ministry. I pray that there would be many people that would receive that call today and grow in passion about it. And boy, thank you so much for loving us. And even when we don't deserve it, you cut us some slack. And so we just love you with all our heart. And we want our life song to sing to you and of you. And I pray that you just would bless this audio big time. where the effects would be realized throughout eternity. We love you with all our heart, and we commit this to you. In the name of the bright morning star, Jesus, our Amen.